Conscientiousness: How to do more in less time by unlocking the power of the mind. Written by Tyler Borden. Narrated by Thomas Cassidy. Introduction. Conscientiousness. Conscientiousness is one of the 5 personality traits of the Big 5 personality theory. A person scoring high in conscientiousness usually has a high level of self-discipline. These individuals prefer to follow a plan rather than act spontaneously. Their methodic planning and perseverance usually makes them highly successful in their chosen occupation. High conscientiousness means a person is responsible and reliable. Conscientiousness is about how a person controls, regulates, and directs their impulses. Individuals with a high level of conscientiousness on a career test are good at formulating long-range goals, organizing and planning routes to these goals, and working consistently to achieve them. Despite short-term obstacles they may encounter, other people usually perceive a conscientious personality type as a responsible and reliable person. However, individuals who score high in conscientiousness on a personality test can be compulsive perfectionists and workaholics. They might also be seen as being boring or inflexible. Take a free personality test to learn more about your occupational strengths and to test personality. Sub-traits of the conscientiousness domain. Each of the Big 5 personality traits is made up of 6 facets or sub-traits. To test personality, these can be assessed independently of the trait that they belong to. The sub-traits of conscientiousness are self-efficacy, orderliness, dutifulness, achievement striving, self-discipline, and cautiousness. Careers and conscientiousness traits. A high score of conscientiousness in a career test is an important indicator of success. One reason is that this domain includes the trait known as need for achievement. These individuals are dependable, organized, and persevere, which means they will accomplish their professional goals. Research shows that the conscientiousness personality trait relates to job performance across different types of occupations. That means that a person who scores high in conscientiousness on a personality test will be better suited to perform a job. Chapter 1. Conscientiousness, a successful leadership trait. Conscientiousness is that personality trait that paves the way for consistent success. It is further believed that such people live longer, have fewer strokes, lower blood pressure, and a lower incidence of Alzheimer's disease, which cannot be only attributed to the fact that they smoke and drink less. There is a staggering amount of research linking conscientiousness with success. Conscientious people earn higher salaries and have greater job satisfaction. Conscientiousness is also the most important factor for finding and retaining employment. Research shows that showing up on time, doing thorough work, and being thoughtful towards your colleagues helps people regardless of their job function or workplace situation. If you made your team undergo a basic personality test, it is highly probable that those people who are reliable who shall score high in conscientiousness. Conscientiousness, a personality trait, reflects the degree to which a person is dependable, responsible, perseverant, and achievement-driven. It specifically refers to the individual difference in the propensity to follow a socially prescribed norm for impulse control, to be task and goal-directed, to be a keen planner and delay gratification. It has been reported by researchers in organizational psychology that conscientiousness is not truly a single unitary entity, but is thought of as a conglomerate of certain specific traits and trait domains. Conscientious managers or leaders are found to be highly task-focused, carry a higher degree of concern for legal aspects and rules, be mindful of ethics, and hold their teams in high ethical standards, be driven for a need for structure. It has been observed by experts that these personality traits are not merely behavioral summaries. Rather, They are relatively enduring patterns of thoughts, feelings, and behavior that are manifested in situations that can accommodate traits. If you made your team undergo a basic personality test, it is highly probable that those people who are reliable, who shall score high in conscientiousness. A strong sense of conscientiousness results in a scrupulous, punctual, reliable, dependable, purposeful, organized, strong-willed, and a highly determined character. Unsurprisingly, research has demonstrated that people with these characteristics become great managers, since they ensure that things are achieved. Moreover, they pay attention even to the smaller details that spell the difference between success and failure. Therefore, there is always a tendency to get these folks on a management track early. There are at least 5 facets which can form components of conscientiousness: industriousness, orderliness, impulse control, reliability, and conventionality. Competencies of emotional intelligence. Ever since our childhood, we have been forced to believe in stories that always link success with intelligence. It has been deeply ingrained within us that success comes to those who achieve the highest scores, from preschool admissions to colleges. Paul Tough, in his book How Children Succeed, Grit, Curiosity, and the Hidden Power of Character, pitches in with the argument that the character-driven qualities such as self-control, perseverance, optimism, and curiosity are the ones that matter the most. He states that the above competencies of emotional intelligence are the ones that define the pathway to success. Toff also writes in his book that people who test high in conscientiousness get better grades in school and college, commit fewer crimes, and stay married longer. Conscientiousness drives success. Conscientious people tend to be super-organized, great planners, and are responsible. They work hard in the face of challenges and can control their impulses. They are better at setting goals and working towards them, as well as persisting amid setbacks. If an ambitious goal cannot be realized, they will switch to a more attainable one, rather than getting discouraged and giving up. As a result, they tend to achieve goals that are consistent with the expectations of the employers. They organize their lives well and are sticklers for punctuality. They make great employees. Why are highly conscientious people so successful? Highly conscientious employees do a series of things better than the rest of us, says Brent Roberts, the professor of psychology at the University of Illinois, who also studies conscientiousness. He states that they plan to achieve their goals better, setting them, working towards them, and persisting amid setbacks. If they realize that a highly ambitious goal cannot be achieved, instead of getting discouraged and losing hope, they will switch to a goal that can be achieved. This is one strong reason as to why they reach goals that are consistent with the aspirations of the employer. He further states that such people carry the grit and shall remain persistent in finding a solution to a problem after repeated failures, and traverse that extra mile to ensure that they achieve their aspirations. In addition, they plan, decide, and draft on paper and write down important dates. Highly successful people like Richard Branson carry a notebook in their pockets all the time. Greek shipping magnate Aristotle Onassis has said, "Writing it down will make you act upon it. If you don't write it down, you will forget it." Once, when Richard Branson did not have his notepad with him, he wrote an idea down in his passport. Another research on conscientiousness demonstrated in a study by McCall, Spritzer, and Maloney in 1994, which was published in the Harvard Journal, identified 11 traits or dimensions for early identification of leaders. Inspired by this research, McCrae and Furnham, the HPTI authors, conducted further detailed research and found that 6 factors could be used as an indicator for measuring the potential for future leadership. From this research, they developed HPTI, which is both practical to use and statistically valid in predicting potential for leadership roles in the future at work. HPTI measures these 6 traits. Conscientiousness, adjustment, curiosity, risk approach or courage, ambiguity acceptance, competitiveness, the link to honesty and integrity. Psychologists classify conscientiousness as one of the big 5 personality traits, along with agreeableness, extroversion, neuroticism, and openness to experience. These people are dependable and are a lot less likely to back out, miss, or forget appointments. They rarely show up late and know that succumbing to convenience kills long-term goals, and that good things take time and hard work. Perhaps this is why conscientiousness is linked to honesty and integrity. In the Wadsworth temperament model, conscientiousness is equivalent to the engineer. People with this component make great employees. However, it can be a hindrance in a manager. Conscientiousness can make people monomaniacs. They find it difficult to multitask. In addition, they tend to focus on tasks and not on the people. And it is people skills that differentiate the successful manager. Finally, there is the major issue of decision-making. Conscientious people tend to get bogged down by the details, and therefore often the cost of making a decision outweighs future benefits. Therefore, it should be kept in mind that being conscientious can be detrimental to some jobs. It can translate to fewer tasks being done or taking longer to complete a set of tasks. In short, it is hard to be thorough and fast. Perhaps in some jobs being meticulous is more important than being fast. But this is not true in all jobs. This personality characteristic also involves appreciation of rules. However, at times following the rulebook can stifle innovation. There are some jobs where following the rule could interfere with productivity. Therefore, if you have a conscientious employee in your team, here are a few suggestions to help them develop their critical skills. Keep track of their assignments. Make sure that you are not loading them up with extra tasks just because you know that they will take care of them. Reward them. If you have overloaded your conscientious folks, reward them with some time and space to work on projects dear to them. That autonomy and appreciation strengthens their bond to the company. It also provides you with more opportunities to observe where their greatest contributions to the organization. The Big 5 Super Trait: Conscientiousness. People high on conscientiousness are organized and dependable, and tend to aim for achievement through self-discipline and planned rather than spontaneous behavior. Are you wired for success? Studies have shown that the Big 5 super trait conscientiousness can predict a person's success. To be conscientious is to be organized, principled, responsible, and a forward thinker. People who score high on this dimension are not impulsive, and they persevere when faced with challenges. The human tendency to regard little things as important has produced very many great things. Georg Christoph Lichtenberg. Do you have this type of personality? The other 4 dimensions of the Big 5 theory of personality are agreeableness, extroversion, neuroticism, openness to experience. The benefits of being conscientious. Many studies have shown that high levels of conscientiousness accounted for better health, well-being, and higher productivity, which is why it's being used as a way to gauge a person's tendency to succeed, not just in their careers, but in life in general. Health. If you score high on this trait, you have lower addiction tendencies. You smoke and drink less and will avoid narcotics. Conscientious people are less impulsive. If you have a chronic condition, you will most likely get regular checkups and take your medicine on time. Organization and doing what's right is a trait of people with high levels of conscientiousness. This will be beneficial to your physical health and overall well-being. Career. Organized people pay attention to details. They are very seldom careless. They are goal-driven, and as employees, they tend to rise above their less conscientious counterparts. Achievers like this are valued by companies, so they get promoted faster and would have higher salaries. When faced with roadblocks, they persevere and double their efforts, enabling them to succeed on whatever they put their minds into. Relationships. Conscientious people would be more mindful of their partners. They love to do the right thing. Extramarital affairs would be something they'd frown at in principle. They are responsible. A conscientious man would be a good provider, and a conscientious woman can be a strong and positive influence to the relationship. What does the trait conscientiousness measure? When you take the conscientiousness test, what it measures is your tendency to control impulses, your competence, dutifulness, orderliness, achievement striving, and deliberation. People on the higher end of the scale of conscientiousness would be responsible and goal-oriented. They love making plans and they stick to it. They are organized and deliver on what they promise. The tendency to be reliable makes this trait highly desirable. Who doesn't want to be with a person you can rely on? If you are high in conscientiousness, you have an edge over other people. In school, you get better grades, and as an employee, you shine in the workplace. Within this super trait are 6 facts that can help you see a more detailed account of what makes you conscientious. Or not. The 6 facets of conscientiousness. 1. Self-efficacy. High score has confidence in their ability to reach goals and succeed. Low score feels ineffective and not in control of their lives. Orderliness. High score loves lists, routine, and schedules. Very organized. Low score, disorganized, scatterbrained, always late. Dutifulness. High score feels a strong sense of duty and moral obligation. Reliable. Low score feels confined by rules, laws, contracts, and regulations. Seen as irresponsible and unreliable. 4. Achievement striving. High score. High achievers strives for excellence. Low score, not as ambitious, oftentimes seen as lazy. 5. Self-discipline. High score, strong ability to persist when doing unpleasant or difficult tasks. Stays on track despite distractions. Low score, procrastinates, often fails to complete tasks, even those that are desirable to them. Cautiousness. High score, deliberates before making decisions, takes consequences and alternatives into consideration. Low score, impulsive, does not think things through. People who score high on conscientiousness will have most of the following traits. Goal-driven and high achievers. Loves a challenge. Strong convictions. Certain. Hard-working and persevering. Neat, detailed and orderly. Often has a to-do list. Cautious and careful in all areas of their lives. Law-abiding and morally ethical. Does the right thing. High satisfaction with life. Plans and deliberates. Honors contracts and delivers on promises. Less prone to extramarital affairs, spousal abuse, and other negative behaviors in a relationship. Knows how to manage conflict. Responsible parents and partners. Conservative. loves to follow the norm. Thrifty and cautious. Tends to accumulate things. Pack rats. People who score very low on conscientiousness often have the following traits. Procrastinators. Seldom finishes tasks on time, if ever. Does not feel in control of their lives. Higher tendencies for substance abuse. May exhibit antisocial behaviors. Poor impulse control. Seeks immediate gratification. Prone to eating disorders, smoking, and alcoholism. Prone to developing chronic health conditions due to bad habits. Feels discontented. Poor quality of relationships. Less responsive, less mindful of their partners. Irresponsible and unreliable. Entertains liberal ideas and does not care about societal standards. Prone to excessiveness or reckless abandon. The downside of conscientiousness. Like everything else when taken to the extreme, conscientiousness can be debilitating. Since people who score very high on conscientiousness have higher goals, ambitions, level of motivation and sense of well-being, they may encounter a problem when faced with failure. Since their motivations and goals are a central part of their lives, failures such as unemployment will lead to decreased self-worth and even depression. The following are negative behaviors found in people with extremely high levels of this super trait. Prone to obsession and fixations. Can be excessively hard-working. Inability to relax. Takes self too seriously. Inability to accept failure. Difficulty in adjusting. Not flexible. Close-minded and prejudiced. Critical self-judgment. Perfectionism. Too high expectations. We may want to have the personality traits that can give us an edge on life, but we should remember that a well-balanced personality is more desirable than having a personality disorder. Knowing how you rate on the scale of conscientiousness will help you avoid the dark side of being too perfect. Are you being too hard on your loved ones and friends? Are you a hard-to-please boss? Do you spend very little time with your family? Are you obsessed with work? Do you even take time to enjoy life? Chapter 2. Conscientiousness Style. Disc. Meticulous and detailed C-style workers are invaluable assets to their respective teams. While they are not the most expressive individuals, the precision and quality of their work is unparalleled. Individuals of the C-style are analytical and detail-oriented. They take pride in working conscientiously to ensure the utmost quality and accuracy. Their careful nature is reflected socially in their diplomatic and tactful relationships with others. C-style individuals are extremely cautious and selective with their words. They are not overly expressive and prefer to let the quality of their work speak for itself. In order to achieve the high quality, C-style workers are meticulous in their preparation. They spend a great deal of time processing information and analyzing data. Their work ethic is so scrupulous that it may appear obsessive to some. So, how will you be able to identify C-style workers in a virtual environment? Here are your 3 tips. 1. Meticulous attitude. The meticulous nature of a C-style individual is very noticeable. When talking to them, you can sense the intensity of their focus. They are listening attentively to your every word and processing the information at the very same time. They will expect you to be comprehensive right down to the last detail. They will not be hesitant to ask you to clarify if uncertain. 2. Quality of work. As mentioned, the works from those of the C style are of the highest quality. Conscientious workers put an immense amount of time and effort in all their works. As such, you will notice that the C style workers typically go above and beyond the minimum requirements. You will also note their precision and superior accuracy. 3. Reserved. In meetings and conferences, you will notice that C-style individuals are not the quickest to respond or voice their opinions. This is due to their analytical nature, which requires them to process all available info, data, and facts before responding. The slow or lack of response is also attributed to their desire to be right. When not absolutely certain, C-style individuals will rarely voice an opinion voluntarily. Like the other styles, I have had my experiences with those belonging to the C style. I once worked with a colleague that exuded conscientiousness like few others. She too worked in the professional training business. Being a C style, each time she talked to an associate, she recorded the amount of time spent. She would then measure the productivity of the conversation in terms of learning new training methods or getting new clients from the associate. She systematically documented all this in an Excel spreadsheet. At year's end, she would open up the spreadsheet and compare the time spent to the productivity of the conversations. If the productivity was less than the time spent, she would discontinue her work with the associate. Though this was over the top methodical, it was truly effective and profitable for her career. In dealing with those of the C style, here are 2 helpful tips. 1. Be detail-oriented. Knowing C style individuals are detail-oriented, you yourself must pay attention to details. When talking to them, be specific and take care to not overlook any intricacies no matter how frivolous they may seem. 2. Be patient. As alluded to previously, C-style workers need time to process all available information. They are slow to respond because they want to give the correct answer, not because they are disengaged. Be patient with them and you will be rewarded. You are now familiar with the last of the styles. I hope this will help you better your relationships with those of the C-style in your future virtual dealings. Please check out this week's podcast on our website for more information and tips. Around the World helps engage virtual team members through specialized techniques and exercises. How to live simply as a conscientious consumer. Down a supermarket aisle, a frazzled mom pushes a cart full of disposable diapers, plastic water bottles, and screaming kids. Being a parent is hard enough. Modern conveniences like big box stores, pre-packaged snacks, and disposable Tupperware seem to make life easier. But do they? It's not easy being green, but being a conscientious consumer just might make life simpler in the long run. As parents, we want the best for our planet because our kids will inherit the Earth. The extra effort we take to live more sustainably is our small gift to future generations. Being a conscientious consumer means we think about what we bring into our lives and how we use the items we already have. There are several schools of thought on the subject of minimal living. Project 333, the Minimalists, the KonMari method, etc. The main goal in all of these is to intentionally select a small number high-quality items to have in your life and let go of the rest. In this post, we will look at how to live simpler and be a conscientious consumer through purchasing thoughtfully, minimizing responsibility, and managing resources wisely. Purchase thoughtfully. Make thoughtful selections when buying new products. The deliberate curation of durable clothes, kitchenware, and home goods combats the throwaway culture of modern society. When objects last longer, less goes to the landfill. When we reduce consumption overall, less stuff is manufactured and less packaging is used. Avoid impulse purchases by making a list and sticking to it. If you see something you really want, add it to a future list. Later, research the product, ask yourself if you truly need it, and make an intentional decision. Purchase second-hand or handmade. We can still get use out of products that others are finished with. Thrift shops and garage sales can be a fun treasure hunt. Websites like Etsy.com host handmade and vintage items. Buy locally grown food and locally made products. This supports your local economy and reduces the carbon emissions used in transporting objects to and from other countries. Consider the packaging purchases come in. Avoid unnecessary, bulky packaging and go for recyclable. When possible, buy things in bulk to reduce package consumption. Just make sure you will actually use the bulk items. Bring a reusable coffee mug or water bottle instead of buying a disposable one. Bring a reusable shopping bag. Replace disposables with reusables. Bring along reusable items such as shopping bags, coffee mugs, and water bottles when going out. Cloths, napkins, and towels replace the paper variety. Go for cloth diapers rather than disposables. Reusable menstrual products are better for your body and the environment than disposable pads and tampons. Share and borrow household items that are used infrequently. Do you only need a ladder once a year when hanging Christmas lights? Borrow one from a neighbour rather than buying one yourself. Make it yourself. DIY all the things. When you take the time to make things at home, they have more meaning and value in your life because you understood the effort that went into their creation. You'll probably take better care of them too. Opt for safer cleaning. A conscientious consumer considers what they are putting into their home through cleaning products and what they are putting into their body and their children with personal care and beauty products. A great big bottle of Castile soap cleans almost anything from the baby to the kitchen sink. Eat green. Making thoughtful dietary changes are healthier for your family and the environment. Buy local, in-season food from the local farmers market or CSA to cook it at home. Buy fresh, whole, organic food and limit pre-packaged processed food. Reduce the consumption of meat and eat more fresh fruit and vegetables. Choose sustainably caught fish and seafood, and of course, grow your own food. Even if you don't have much yard space, garden towers are space-saving options. Minimize responsibly. Even when purchasing thoughtfully, there still comes a time to get rid of stuff. With this simple living principle in mind to use what you have and have what you use, think about what you truly need and let go of the rest. When minimizing clutter, do so responsibly. Try to limit stuff that winds up in a landfill. Remember that someone else may find value in the object you're getting rid of. For example, our automatic coffee maker stopped working, and I listed it for free on our local Facebook trading post. Another mum came and got it because her son liked taking apart and tinkering with appliances. The coffee maker stopped being useful to me, but it still served a purpose for someone else. Recycle. Take time to learn what can be recycled in your local area. Glass, paper, and plastic are the norm. See who will recycle clothing, electronics, home goods, etc. Upcycle. Give old garbage new life. An empty oatmeal container can be a toy drum for your kids. An old t-shirt can be your new reusable shopping bag. Repurpose wooden pallets into planter boxes. Basically, the only limit is your own imagination. Compost. Feed eggshells, yard waste, and kitchen scraps to a food digester, composter, or pile. Donate. Find your local Goodwill or thrift shop. Your old items could still be useful to other people. Have a garage sale. Why not make a little extra cash off the items you're no longer using? Sell online. List items on eBay or Craigslist. Many areas even have a local Facebook group for selling and trading. Manage resources wisely. Purchased items is only one form of consumption. Consider other resources we use, such as transportation, energy, and water. How can individuals and families reduce their consumption of our planet's valuable resources? Find alternate transportation. Public transit availability varies wildly depending on location. Look into your area's transit system. When possible, bike or walk to get where you need to go. For longer trips where public transit isn't available, try to find a carpool. Let's say you do need a car. Driving a well-maintained older car, especially one with decent gas mileage, generally a greener option than purchasing a new one. Consider the environmental costs of manufacturing a new automobile and adding old cars to the junk pile. Consider the energy efficiency of your vehicle. Hybrid and electric cars are becoming cheaper and more readily available. Reduce home energy consumption. If possible, look into getting an energy audit to find out how you can have a more energy-efficient home. Simple steps anyone can take include unplugging or turn off your electronic devices when not in use, turning off the lights when you leave the room, switching to CFL or LED bulbs, hang-dry laundry, research energy-efficient appliances, and properly sealing and insulating your home. Reduce water waste at home. Take shorter showers and fewer baths. Never let the tap run while brushing teeth or shaving. Use energy-efficient washing machines and dishwashers and run full loads. Repair leaky toilets and faucets. Install low-flow shower heads and faucet aerators and fix leaky toilets and faucets. Install a rain barrel. Use grey water for watering your garden. Making these lifestyle changes into habits isn't easy. Maybe you are already doing many of them, but being a conscientious consumer is better for your family and the environment. As the great Albus Dumbledore said, there will be a time when we must choose between what is easy and what is right. Teaching children conscientiousness for success. Do you know there's a success factor you can start installing in your child right now? It's a trait that is more predictive of success in life than any other skill or aptitude. It's the often overlooked trait of conscientious behavior. Conscientiousness. Your child may be too young to know the word, but that doesn't mean he or she can't grasp the concept. A sense of right and wrong is one of the first things parents instill in a child. At its most basic level, conscientious behavior is knowing what the right thing to do is and doing it. To a child, conscientiousness begins with simple tasks such as brushing teeth and picking up toys. As the child develops, conscientiousness expands to embrace complex ideas like telling the truth, keeping promises, and being responsible. In addition to encouraging these behaviors in your child, it's important that you set the same standards for yourself, providing a consistent model to learn from. For example, if you practice spending restraint to save for an important item, your child is more likely to learn the value of advanced planning and setting money aside. Study findings. According to numerous studies, conscientiousness isn't just one factor in achieving success. It is the single most reliable factor in predicting success at school and in the workplace. Recent studies by the National Institute of Mental Health and the National Institute on Aging have found that conscientious people are more likely to find employment and less likely to lose their jobs. They also tend to earn more money and report higher levels of satisfaction with their work. While these findings may seem predictable, others' findings are more surprising. Several studies show that conscientious adults experience less stress, have sounder physical health, and enjoy better social relationships. This is proved consistently true regardless of career choice, talents, and other personality traits such as openness, agreeableness, and extroversion. The image of the absent-minded professor and free-spirited artist may seem at odds with conscientiousness, but in fact both of these types succeed because they bring a high degree of organization and dedication to their endeavors. The success chain. Habits begun in childhood start building a success chain that leads not only to financial success, but success in health, happiness, and fulfillment. Researchers have speculated that the reason conscientious people have less stress is because they meet their obligations and avoid last-minute scrambles to finish their work or pay the mortgage. Their good health is the outcome of taking care of themselves and not skipping regular checkups. Social relationships flourish because others can count on them. You can help your child start building this success chain at a very young age. The rewards will remain forever. Doing your language learning exercises conscientiously. Some people take to their writing classes the same way they took to social studies back in grade school. Reluctantly. Funny thing is, these same people are likely taking a language course not because they need it to pass school anymore. Rather, they're doing it for personal or professional growth, so lazily going about it shouldn't even be a consideration. No one's threatening to ground you for not taking a class anymore, so if you're going to slack and fake your way to a passing mark, aren't you better served just doing something else with your time? In case you've decided that yes, you're going to embrace this whole language learning thing with your heart, we have one attitude we'd like you to keep in mind throughout it. Do it conscientiously. Don't just do it like you're going through the motions. Don't try to act like you're serious. Instead, do it with the fervor you would put in a work activity that will determine how much money you will make in the next 10 years. When you sit with your language learning software, really listen. If things don't make sense, pause it and go back until it does. Don't presuppose things will make sense later. Make them work right on the spot. When you're doing language exercises, keep a book or a reference handy. Refer to them anytime you need clarification, making sure you get every step right. Seek feedback wherever it is available. Chapter 3. Conscientious employees cost less. Attendance is one of the costliest problems businesses face. It is expensive when a number of employees don't show up for work, and it's even more expensive when a larger number come to work but fail to perform at levels they were hired for. Absenteeism and presenteeism are two sides of the same coin, paying for something without getting a fair return. This article answers the question, what can managers do to help employees feel more responsible about attendance that will lead to improved productivity? Two subgroups of workers exist in every workplace. The larger population, which is composed of employees that are unencumbered by chronic demands on their time at home, and the lesser one known as family caregivers. The first is free to make plans and schedule their time based solely on their own ability to keep those plans and appointments. Caregivers, however, must always consider the abilities and schedules of the person they are responsible for. Researchers found that more than 1 in 6 US workers also take care of others, which makes it useful to address their needs individually, especially since their costs run higher than the first group. However, there are more opportunities to reduce costs in this group through education and a little assistance. Presenteeism, as it's known in the world of business, is not about goofing off when employees should be engaged in productive activities, or about pretending to be ill to avoid a distasteful duty. Researchers define it more along the lines of coming to work but physically or mentally unable to perform at one's normal level. Manny Pacquiao's job that night was to compete against Floyd Mayweather Jr. in a professional boxing match that was billed the fight of the century. Pacquiao lost, and within hours his team revealed that he had in fact fought injured. He had damaged his right shoulder while training in April and had not only failed to disclose it on a pre-fight questionnaire, but declared that he did not have a shoulder injury. It had partially healed by the night of the fight, but Pacquiao had been refused permission to receive an injection of legal painkillers before the fight, which might have helped him perform at a higher level. He later stated that he re-injured it during the fourth round, and he has since had surgery to repair a torn rotator cuff. Immediately, lawsuits were filed by discontented groups who felt cheated out of the money they paid to see two title contenders compete in fight-ready condition. Some claim Pacquiao's showing up constituted fraud, while others claim he made the right choice because it's unreasonable to expect anyone in professional sports to be at 100%, and it would have been much more costly to postpone the fight. Absenteeism versus presenteeism. This case may seem extreme, but the conflict is common and expensive. Every day, millions of employees have to make the same choice, whether to go to work or stay home because of circumstances that prevent them from performing to their full potential. Some of the top causes of absenteeism include illness, injury, disengagement, childcare, elder care, burnout, stress, low morale, substance abuse, and depression. Some of the top causes of presenteeism include can't afford to lose pay for a day, fear of losing job, chronic illness, injury, dedication to the company. There are many reasons for absenteeism, including how much and what kind of work there is to do that day, what's going on at home, how long it has been since the last sick day, and even opening day at the ballpark. Currently, the estimated lost productivity cost to US businesses from absenteeism is $84 billion. Presenteeism costs are much more difficult, if not impossible, to capture because the employee is present at work and there is seldom a way to monitor the level of lowered productivity. Recent estimates for annual productivity loss due to presenteeism range from $150 billion to $250 billion, which is 2 to 3 times the cost of absenteeism. Another matter to be considered, even though it can't be measured, is whether or not an error or accident occurred because of the employee's distraction. Is there anything that can be done to help reduce the amount of time off due to made-up excuses or meager issues, without promoting even more presenteeism from honest workers? Is there anything that can be done to help reduce the number of times dedicated workers show up sick, without encouraging marginal employees to take even more time? The short answer is yes, but the two groups should be considered separately and treated equally. Discussions with the majority of workers who have the independence to make choices about attendance based solely on their own needs and desires have more to do with behaviors that can be modified easily with the right education, whereas dealing with the reasons caregivers are often absent or present are more complicated. Employees want everything they need from their companies to perform to the best of their ability. Employers want to give their employees everything they need, within reason, to do their best for their companies, and should expect them to perform to the best of their abilities. Both want to improve their company's position in the marketplace, yet it seems that in too many organizations, individual personalities develop an attitude of us versus them, which generates distrust of motives and objectives. The goal must be to first eliminate distrust through openness on the part of both. This would be a major shift for many, but today's successful businesses all tout the advantages of transparency between employee and employer. Coming together is a beginning. Keeping together is progress. Working together is success. Henry Ford. Employees and employers need to work together to reduce costs. Recognize and understand the problem, then try to meet each other's need. Be aware of unintended consequences when making the choice to take time off or when disciplining to control absenteeism. Have a policy regarding reasons for absence. Inform and educate everyone. Be consistent. Provide wellness programs. Use wellness programs. Provide paid sick days or paid time off. Be honest and conscientious when using sick days. Give plenty of advance notice for time off, whenever possible. Conscientious employees are always thinking about the effects of their actions. Helping caregivers can pay big dividends. Most caregiving employees are above average workers and highly self-motivated to do a good job when they have the opportunity. Their main drawbacks are that they have more personal events to deal with than non-caregiving employees, and that they have to consider not only their own interests and the company's, but the people they care for as well. They don't like taking unanticipated time off and will go to extraordinary measures to avoid excessive absences. For example, they may come to work sick and risk the health of their co-workers despite having all their paid sick days available, simply because they know it's likely they will need them for later caregiving-related issues. Studies from MetLife and others about the costs of low productivity due to caregiving all make the same recommendations to improve rates of absenteeism and effective presenteeism. Develop programs and services for working caregivers such as benefits such as flexi-time, telecommunicating, and job sharing. Programs to provide respite care, adult day services, and caregiver support groups. Informal, referral, and education programs. Employee and/or employer-funded long-term care insurance. While these benefits may be helpful for employees just starting to provide care, they aren't sustainable because the needs of the cared for can't be scheduled. When caring for a parent with age-related difficulties, for example, their condition usually only declines within relatively short blocks of time, so that what was adequate only a few months ago now isn't enough. Accommodations and concessions aren't the long-term solution to unanticipated time off or a disengagement while at work. Employees can't expect employers to provide ways to make their lives easier, nor can they expect forgiveness for excessive tardiness or absences. It isn't the nature of business to be caregivers to caregivers. Even though more companies than ever before are trying to help their employees resolve scheduling problems, the popular phrase being work-life balance, it's more beneficial for employees to point caregivers in the direction of a resource, so they can get help for themselves. Sometimes well-meaning supervisors unintentionally add to the attendance problem by expressing higher levels of compassion than would be appropriate for an employer-employee relationship. For example, they may tell an employee, "Family comes first," to ease their guilt about giving a last-minute notice when an emergency situation at home prevents them from showing up that day. What the supervisor is saying is, "I'm sorry you have this problem today, so we will excuse your absence today." What the caregiver may be hearing is, "I'm sorry you have this problem, take all the time you need, family always comes first." If caregiving employees don't understand that many times work comes first, it becomes easier for them to stay home each time. So what can be done? The same practices that work for all employees are helpful for working caregivers as well. But above all, caregivers need to know that they won't be penalized for opening up to their managers about their caregiving situations. In addition, talking about the needs of the company and listening to the needs of caregivers is essential to reaching common ground where solutions are developed. It can't start in HR, it has to begin with immediate supervisors. Employees need to know that they'll be supported by their companies as they work to find ways to manage their circumstances. With a little help and consideration from employers, they will make remarkable progress. Employers need to be reassured that their caregiving employees are working with their supervisors to reduce unanticipated days off, and increase engagement at work, and that they are actually making progress. They should expect to see signs of real effort and honest cooperation. There is danger in saying too much at work, but there is also danger in saying too little. However, it's not talk that counts, but actual changes in behavior. Caregiving employees need to show that they are changing through accomplishment, no matter how small at first. Perception is everything, and the only way to overcome hesitancy or suspicion is to actually do things differently that create positive results. An adventure in conscientiousness and focused consciousness. Glance around you if you are in a room full of material objects, and tell me if they are not simply atoms and light vibrating to make them solid and hard-seeming, with different textures and that kind of thing. Sure, reality when looked at correctly is an adventure in manifestation, no matter how you look at it. You can look at it any way you want, but any way you look at it, something is always manifesting according to intention or purpose. All we have to do is make ourselves genuinely a part of that by putting out the effort to become a part of that. The real revolution is when we take disciplined control and shape circumstances through our own patient and understanding efforts. Sure, existence and God helps those who help themselves. But we must meet where this is halfway with our own efforts also. Life is what we make it, at every level that counts. And what do I mean by the word counts and the sentence every level that counts? I mean this. When we focus our efforts on a definite goal to create and work in reality, it does become a genuine, successful adventure in manifestation, so to speak. The real revolution is the genuine evolution of our own goals. Sure, before it evolves, it all has to revolve. That is a genuine given. But what you must realize is that everything is achievable. Everything. Rational or irrational, it is achievable if it exists as a concept in reality. Think about it. What is not possible in some way, shape, or form? There just has to be a way found for it to be done. That is it. To my way of thinking, any goal is achievable, really. All that has to be found are the rational means, even if the goal seems or is irrational. Ironically, the most seemingly irrational and far-fetched ideas have created the civilization we live in and all of the future advancements. To put it another way, the crazy fiction of today can be the fact of tomorrow. On the other hand, the establishment in the past is the history lesson of tomorrow, for integrating is all about evolving and revolving the future from the present. For conscientiously creating, the future comes from advancing from the now, not going, this is it and I'm sticking with it. Sure, now is where it is at. Now is where we live, but we must all grow without fear if we ever want to really get anywhere. That is the rub. That is the mission and goal of all life and existence. The smallest order in existence is failure. Success is the largest. Make your choice. 5 things a conscientious money-making affiliate must remember. So you want to become a money-making affiliate. Affiliate marketing is still growing. It is one of the most renowned ways for businesses to make more profits as well as for marketers to earn money through the internet. A person can join a company that wants affiliate services, and then he or she performs plenty of duties so that the company's goods will become more known to the internet public. Here are ways in which an internet marketer can accomplish that well. 1. The money-making affiliate must have a website or blog of his or her own. That is the first requirement, because all the marketing will be done through the website and blog. Affiliates will write book on the websites or blogs, and they must also perform constant maintenance on the websites or blogs so that all the information contained will be fresh. The money-making affiliate must feature a company's products well. They can be done through descriptions, testimonials, and reviews. Of course, it will be best if the products are featured uniquely in an affiliate's website or blog and can't be found elsewhere, so that there will be fewer competitors. The money-making affiliate must be able to create tantalizing advertisements. Advertisements, in the form of links directed towards the company's homepage, will be what customers will click so that they can order featured products from the company, and once there are orders, the affiliate will earn money. The more customers, the more earnings. Advertisements must not appear too generic though, so that customers won't think they are clicking on what they think to be a marketing ploy. The money-making affiliate must maintain rapport with customers. Rapport is important to get customers to buy again. An affiliate who treats customers well will not only be viewed as friendly, but also as credible, and he or she will become a prosperous affiliate in the long run. Also, on the flip side, customers are easily turned off by marketers who prove to be untrustworthy in their reviews, or pushy in their marketing styles. The money-making affiliate must hone affiliate marketing skills constantly. No one expects to get the whole affiliate marketing chore right the first time, but constant practice will enable one to write better articles, create better links, attract more customers, and become a better affiliate marketer over time. Organic gardening tips. 4 tips for the conscientious gardener. For the horticulturalist or simply the amateur home gardener who grows fruits, flowers and vegetables in the backyard, there is certain information about gardening they should always keep in mind. This information is outlined in the form of some simple gardening tips in this article. Some simple gardening tips for you to follow. 1. Make sure that all the products you use are completely natural and free of chemicals, pesticides, and insect repellents. Use organic gardening to grow naturally healthy fruits and vegetables, because these are good for the community and environment as a whole. Organic gardening is natural and consequently safe in every sense of the term. It poses no health hazards but enhances the well-being of plants, animals, humans, and environments at large alike. On the other hand, the harsh chemicals that are used in gardening and growing food crops lead to many diseases such as lung problems, allergies, or even cancer. If gardeners refrain from using these dangerous products, then they are saving anyone who consumes their products from a lot of health hazards. 2. Look for non-toxic weed killers. These are available in organic gardening supply stores everywhere and are much more environmentally and medically safer than the ones found in the gardening sections of hardware stores. Organic products are guaranteed to be safe for everyone. 3. Read the labels of every gardening product you buy to make sure that they only consist of natural and chemical-free products. This will let your garden be totally organic in nature and much healthier than non-organic gardens. It is advisable not to let the personnel at the stores direct you. Simply don't buy it if it doesn't have all natural or organic written on the label. When in doubt, ask an organic gardening expert, especially those in stores. Write the names of the products down and find them on the internet. This is your best bet and the least risky one, and will allow you to find the perfect products for your organic garden. 4. Be absolutely certain that you use organic gardening tips taken from very reliable and trustworthy sources. Retail or wholesale outlets either do not have any organic products or have very little of them, and thus are not in a position to advise you in any way as far as organic gardening is concerned. Either through ignorance or deliberately, they will give you wrong information and probably discourage you to look for and use organic products, citing many reasons, none of which are reliable enough to trust. Organic gardening stores and the internet are perfect places to look for organic gardening tips. Chapter 4. How to distinguish a conscientious editor from an insensitive butcher. We live in a time where the simple act of writing makes a person a writer. Many writers simply write to please themselves. They often wonder what's wrong with readers who do not recognize the merits in their writing. They might also get offended by the suggestion that their writing needs an editor. Even so, the competence of a writer lies in the perception of the reader. Agent for improved communication. If you make changes to another's writing, then that makes you an editor. A conscientious editor acts as an intermediary between a writer and a reader. The value of an editor, therefore, comes from improving the reader's experience of the writer's work. Yet many who play the role of an editor do not see it this way. This leads to overcautious writers and zealous editors. When an editor is most needed. The work of an editor is particularly important on multi-author documents. Even when they are long-time colleagues, co-authors often differ in their practices regarding grammar, punctuation, capitalization, spelling, style, and level of detail. Sometimes even single-author documents present these inconsistencies as when the writer writes in varying moods or other conditions over time. These documents typically require editorial revision so that the reader experience may be uniformly positive. Unfortunately, many editors edit simply to please themselves. They often wonder why writers do not recognize the changes that they make as improvements. Herein lies the difference between a professional wordsmith intentionally acting as a conscientious editor and a less competent editor unintentionally acting like an insensitive butcher. Of drunken sailors. To some, editing provides an opportunity to turn somebody else's writing into their own. For example, some editors replace expressions that do not align with their preferences with expressions that they do prefer. If the editor is aggressive and the writer permissive, then the editor could erase much of the writer's own communication when transplanting his or her own perceptions and biases. Editors who do this go through the writer's work with the grace of a drunken sailor. Serving the reader is at best an afterthought. The document might emerge more accessible and understandable to the editor, but any gains in serving the intended readers arise accidentally. Of well-intentioned bumblers. Rarely do editors approach the role with malice. Many simply have too little awareness of their actual effect on the documents they edit. "Seems better to me," is their standard of excellence as they remain unaware of how their own subjectivity determines their judgment of a document's merits. Of serving the writer. The chief task of a conscientious editor is to render documents efficient by accurately expressing ideas, sentiments, or facts. Effective by informing with objectivity and balance, persuading with clear logic and compelling emotion, instructing with clarity, completeness, and precision. A principle for efficiency. The shorter a document, the more likely it is to be read. Yet writing that seems terse often fails readers who need more help to understand, who want to enjoy reading, or who get offended on the perception of abruptness. Brevity is good, and it comes in degrees. A focus on relevance helps to avoid extreme brevity. Examples of effectiveness. To draw in its intended readers, a document must rapidly appeal to their interests. Then, it must deliver on the promise it makes. An editor could act as an agent for the reader, then, in suggesting alternative titles or the inclusion of subtitles. Likewise, when the writer includes sentences, paragraphs, or sections that do not serve the focus of the document, the reader's purpose in reading it, then the editor must excise them, no matter how satisfying their inclusion may be to the writer. In this way, effectiveness and efficiency are complementary. Of serving the reader. A conscientious editor improves a document's effectiveness according to standards defined by the reader profile. For example, if the intended readership comprises experts in the subject, then the editor should eliminate unnecessary explanations and help to emphasize the relevance and originality of the main concept. There are often clever ways to do this without the editor becoming a co-author. Observing the message. Good editing includes analysis that focuses on how to increase the clarity of the writer's message while attending to the collective needs of the whole readership. For example, a metaphor used to make a point might distract some readers and need replacement with something better fitting the context. Alternatively, the writer might use expressions that reflect a visual bias, e.g., to see is to understand. These could be balanced with kinesthetic terms, e.g., to grasp is to comprehend, or auditory terms, e.g., what sounds right is accepted. The editor should make or suggest the slightest changes possible. Separating wheat from chaff. The simple act of strumming a guitar can make you a guitarist. It takes much more to become a true musician. The simple act of jumping into water can make you a diver. It takes much more to qualify as a diving instructor. To advance from being an editor by the simple act of altering text to being a conscientious wordsmith also takes much more. Of getting value. It can be difficult to find somebody who really makes your writing efficiently, effectively serve your readers. Documents that do this serve the writer too. Between complete draft and satisfied readership, a conscientious editor can play an essential role. May it now be easier to distinguish a conscientious editor from an insensitive butcher. Be a conscientious solo traveler. To a greater extent, more people prefer to spend their holiday vacations in discovering new destinations abroad. Recently, there have been trends in going alone for a holiday vacation. Solo travel can be a lot of fun, contrary to what most people think of as a boring setup. Traveling alone can actually be very rewarding and exciting. There are certain times that we want to spend some time away from the thoroughness of our daily, busy lives. Planning out a solo travel tour could stress you out, particularly if you are unfamiliar about your travel destination and how to find the best single travel deals. Here are guidelines that will help you enjoy a pleasurable and soothing vacation while keeping yourself safe at the same time. Be conscientious in making travel arrangements, and don't forget the basics. Have a duplicate copy of your important documents such as IDs, passport, and itineraries. Inform your family and friends of your vacation plan and when you will be leaving and returning. Travel around by means of a travel company. They usually have travel operators who plan vacations for single tourists. Since you travel on your own, it is likely that you will meet new people and make new friends within your tour group. Going out on a solo travel tour with a small group of people and a travel guide will help you stay out of harm's way. Travel companies typically cater to people in pairs. Solo tourists frequently get the shaft of it, and more likely they have to pay additional charges for the tour when they avail single travel deals alone. Thus, it will be worthy if you look for a single travel deals with the least fee. Finding out and learning as much as you can about the culture of people in your travel destination is one of the most excellent ways to keep yourself safe. In that manner, you do not give idea to the locals that you are a tourist. The World Wide Web is at your disposal in keeping yourself informed with the latest guidebooks about how the locals act and speak, what they wear, and what they eat. Make sure also to acquaint yourself with the local bylaws and customs. It is likely that you will become a prospect for theft if you act like the locals do. Mingle and make friends with other travelers. Solo travel can be lonesome, but it can also be fun. That depends on how you deal with the circumstance. When you get into a solo travel tour, it is good to make new friends with your fellow tourists within the tour group and the travel guide. Planning on travel alone and booking single travel deals do have intrinsic risks. The aforementioned guidelines will be able to keep you out of repressive situations out of the country. If you have smoothed out all the essential details about your trip ahead, you'll do just fine on your solo expedition. The new conscientious consumer: who they are and how to connect with them. Emerging cultural codes: the foundations of change. Consumers are becoming more conscious on many levels. In fact, the way in which they are making decisions and expressing preferences within our culture is undergoing a fundamental change. So much so that the business community is overflowing with books and conference discussions about what is happening. Who are these conscientious consumers, and how should companies that provide consumer products go about connecting with them? The shift in consumer behavior is being attributed to a variety of factors. These include technology, the desire for engagement, self-determination and sustainability, to name just a few. All of these factors are most certainly in play, but they are the expression of a deeper groundswell of change and the emergence of a new set of cultural codes that define the way people behave across all areas of their lives. The way in which people consume is one of the most visible aspects of this change, and the most studied because it is the basis of profitability for so many companies. As such, consumer behavior provides an interesting insight into the dominant and emerging codes that define the very nature of the culture that we live in. These codes can be seen as the foundation on which all trends, fashions and fads are built, and will be the starting point for this look into today's consumers. The context of cultural change. Cultural evolution and its impact on social and hence consumer behavior is a continuum that can be traced back through history to the very inception of our engagement in commerce and trade. Looking back provides interesting insight into the way people consumed in the past, but also highlights the dominant codes that determine consumer behavior today. It also allows us to make reasonable predictions about how that behavior will change going forward. Looking back. Consumerism as we know it began to emerge after the conclusion of the Second World War. The manufacturing capability established to support the war effort was redirected towards the production of affordable consumer products for the emerging middle class. At that time, the dominant cultural code was conformity, stability, and normalcy. An understandable response to the upheaval and social trauma caused by World War II, and the basis of the white picket fence mentality where people tried to look and behave very much alike. Brands that appealed to this core cultural need prospered. This meant a huge demand for mass manufacturing, standardized products, and this consumption drove the incredible growth and prosperity of this era. To summarize the next 40 or so years, the 60s marked somewhat of a return to the notion of individuality, but this was not widespread enough to become the dominant cultural code. Recession in the 70s slowed things down significantly, and then the 80s and 90s were really all about bigger and better, very status-oriented. The wholesaling of previously luxury brands, supersizing of cars, diamonds, labels, and so on. What it means. What is interesting about this perspective on consumer behavior is the consumer has not really changed at all. They continue to consume in a way that expresses the dominant cultural themes that define the era in which they live. They consistently seek to represent the values and display the status markers that garner approval and represent success as it is defined by their culture. So it is times that change. And to understand the conscientious consumer, we need to understand the social context in which they consume, how that impacts their preferences, and molds their interpretation of value. Our life and times. So what is the cultural environment that represents the backdrop to this conscientious consumer? The codes are numerous, but a few stand out in terms of really driving the way that people consume. Consumers are looking for engagement with the brands that they purchase. They want a sense of self-determination and the opportunity to establish an individualized identity. There is growing distrust of large corporations, and people are replacing corporate with self-representation. There is incredible new access to information through technology, so consumers are significantly more informed and sophisticated. Finally, awareness, responsibility, and sustainability are the new status markers, and people are looking to represent these cultural values in the way that they spend. The conscientious consumer. So why the term conscientious consumer? Conscientious means several things in this context. Consumers are smarter and better informed. Their purchasing represents this by being either price-wise, as in a bargain, or reflective of the social values outlined above. They use peer-to-peer formats such as social networking to gather information, and don't take ads and corporate product representations at face value. They rely heavily on word of mouth to steer and then reinforce their choices, and spend a considerable amount of time researching options online before they buy. They are as focused on the experience of purchasing as they are on the attributes of the product that they buy, and they are prepared to spend significantly more if the product allows them to display the status markers defined above. They are also looking for more control in the purchasing process and the opportunity to differentiate themselves and emphasize their individuality. They foster a new interpretation of value that has more to do with what product says about who they are and what is important to them. So, they are conscientious in terms of how well informed they are, but also in terms of their connectivity with other consumers and the basis of their decision making as it pertains to cultural codes and values. Translated. So, what does this all mean to companies looking to thrive in this new space? All the debate and discussion associated with this shifting landscape, while fascinating, becomes academic if it doesn't translate into usable guidelines and recommendations for companies seeking to connect with these consumers. In order to thrive, companies need to understand what consumers are looking for and create products and experiences that reflect those things. Pick a pole. Purchasing is becoming polarized around two somewhat different goals: the hunt for a bargain and the desire to display the new, conscientious, and sustainable status markers. This is driving interesting phenomena called the death of the middle-class product. Simply put, people will buy products that represent the least expensive or will spend a lot more to buy novel, custom, luxury, or eco-friendly goods that satisfy the consumer's ideal representation of themselves. Much of what lies in between is starting to disappear. A good example of this is the demise of the American car industry that has been churning out mid-priced, average-quality product for decades and has failed to identify the need to be either cleaner, cheaper, or more luxury-based. Consumer products companies should pick their spot on this map around one of these poles and stay out of the middle. Create space. It is becoming clear that consumers are paying as much attention to the experience of purchasing as they are to the attributes of the products they buy. Companies are investing heavily in creating both physical and digital environments that conform to new patterns of spending. To generalize about these spaces, they are designed to create the sense of a community that is reflective in the growth of social networking. They are a fun and easy place to hang out and allow the consumer to explore in ways that feel inconsequential. In other words, the consumer does not feel like they are being sold on something or steered towards a decision. Finally, they are operating as an information resource to the consumer in order to develop trust or purporting to represent ideal values, such as sustainability. A couple of great examples of this are Anthropology, on the retail side where they have set up areas in the store where customers can sit down and socialize. On the web, Trulia.com is a great example because of its use of chat rooms and information resources. The look and feel of the site is light, and there is no directive towards a transaction. Create a customizable product. Consumers are trying hard to differentiate themselves and demonstrate a level of individuality in the way that they consume. This being true, the more the consumer can manipulate the experience of purchasing the product or the product itself, the more able they are to satisfy this desire. NileGuide.com is a web-based travel company that allows you to research and plan your trip online. Nothing new there, but this company has differentiated itself by allowing the customer to create custom itinerary-based travel guides to take with them, collect or share with friends. This is a great example of a company that has tapped into people's desire for a custom product that allows them to project their individuality to the social sphere. Engagement and speaking the right language. It's not just about having the right product and the right space to sell it from. Consumers want and need to be engaged. Engagement is about establishing a relationship with the consumer over time and creating an emotional connection between them and your brand. Engagement means different things in different consumer environments, but always means getting customer loyalty and price desensitization. Engagement today means creating a compelling and authentic message that creates an emotional connection amongst consumers. Method has done an excellent job creating this connection by delivering a strong, eco-sensitive message in the context of household cleaning products. Keep it clean. Consumers have the information resources to check a company's message and brand identity against their corporate practices and values. Companies are required more and more to walk the marketing and PR talk that they have to become so expert in delivering. Keeping it clean means conforming to a higher set of values that can be communicated through the brand. Subaru is currently touting a new manufacturing facility with a zero carbon footprint as a way to counter flagging auto sales industry-wide. Sustainability has become their mantra and works well with existing perceptions of what Subaru stands for. They are still selling cars. Understand the viral marketing opportunity. Consumer products companies must absolutely educate themselves on the ways in which purchasing has been changed by the internet. The importance of viral marketing, social networking, chat rooms, blogs and so on cannot be overstated. Understanding this world and learning how to use it is now more powerful than almost any other form of marketing. Sites like dailycandy.com, which are basically vehicles for consumer products, are increasingly popular and well known. They are where consumers congregate to check out what's new and get peer-to-peer validation of their choices. Familiarity with these sites and an understanding of how to leverage their influence is a critical factor in today's marketplace. Make money, make a difference with conscientious capitalism. Is conscientious capitalism the way of the future? Can good people help good causes like animals, charity, and the environment while still being able to make money? The revelation sweeping through business, including internet and online marketing, is this: people are more likely to actually take action to do good if there's also something in it for themselves. Selfish? Maybe. Effective? Absolutely. Pure altruism is noble, but nowadays we must be realistic. Most of us need more than that to really motivate us. The thing is, there's nothing wrong with making money by helping. If, for instance, more money can be raised for a great cause by motivating fundraisers through incentives, you've got a win-win situation that becomes a massively powerful tool for good. That's how conscientious capitalism works. The more we earn for our cause, the more we earn and the more people we can recruit to help us earn even more. Luckily, a new path for doing good in the 21st century has emerged during a time when traditional capitalism has landed us in some of the biggest, stickiest moral and practical dilemmas humanity has experienced so far. Environmental catastrophes, for instance, are reaching crisis proportions. However, a new paradigm has formed and is spreading like wildfire. You're productive and conscientious, so why is everyone else getting the recognition? Dwight is amazing at his job. He outsells everyone else, he follows all the rules to the letter, he stays on task at all times, he plays the recorder, and he has earned a purple belt. Yet time and again, Dwight gets passed over for recognition. He receives plenty of Employee of the Month awards, but gets turned down for raises and promotions. Although there are hardly ever any examples of real-life Dwight Schrutes to that extreme, one supposes because they get taken care of early in life on the school ground perhaps, most places of work have a few people who display some of his characteristics. These are the people who do a great job and outperform everyone else, but are constantly being passed over for higher positions. Why is this? Well, just like Dwight, it usually comes down to personality. No matter what job you are in, it is likely that you will have to interact with some people. This kind of interaction always highlights character flaws. And the sad thing is that most people suffering from Dwightness do not realize that the fault lies, at least in part, with themselves. If you find that you can relate to the symptoms Dwight suffers from, particularly being passed over, then perhaps it is time to take an honest look at yourself to see if the problem lies with you rather than with someone else. Granted, a prejudiced boss can really present a roadblock, but it is not always the boss that is standing in the way of your career. What is called for first is some honest self-analysis. Begin with how you react when someone is chosen for a promotion over yourself. If one of the first things you do is go to the coffee room or another area and complain that your qualifications are much better, it is a sign that perhaps you are not as good with people as you may have thought. It is better just to keep your mouth shut and talk to only a handful of people, preferably outside of the office. How do you handle it when you don't miss deadlines? Don't make a lot of external excuses as to why the job wasn't done. If the fault lies with you for whatever reason, admit it and move on. Remember that twice at the most is sufficient for reminding people, including your boss, about a job well done. More than that starts to sound like you think everyone else is an idiot or can't remember. Your managers have longer memories than you think. The key point we are trying to make here is to avoid sabotaging your own career. Like Dwight, you can be the top employee in every area, but just end up rubbing everyone the wrong way. This will lead to frustration both for yourself and for your fellow workers. Try to let your work speak for itself, and take responsibility only for you. Chapter 5. Conclusion. Conscientiousness is one of the super traits in the Big Five model of personality. The trait has 6 dimensions: self-efficacy, orderliness, dutifulness, achievement striving, self-discipline, and cautiousness. The conscientious consumer is shaping the consumer landscape and should be the subject of a great deal of attention for any company wishing to sell products into this market. Cross-referencing your product against the prevailing preferences of these consumers will ensure that you are presenting and projecting your offering in a way that is compelling in the context of today's consumer culture. Learning how to reach out to consumers by being a presence in the places that we already know they are spending time online is critical, and designing a distribution strategy that optimizes the opportunity for engagement with your customer will give your brand legs that will carry it forward into future opportunities. In brief, be a conscientious consumer product and move with the shifting landscape to create a continuous connection with your customer. There's still time to change and lead a more well-balanced life. The key is to be aware of who you are and what drives your actions and thoughts. Thanks again for buying my book. If you have a minute, please leave a review. I take reviews seriously and always look at them. This way you are helping me provide you better content that you will love in the future. A review doesn't have to be long, just 1 or 2 sentences and a number of stars you find appropriate. Hopefully 5, of course. Also, if I think your review is useful, I will mark it as helpful. This will help you become more known on Amazon as a decent reviewer, and will ensure that more authors will contact you with free ebooks in the future. This is how we can help each other. Take a look at these other books too: bipolar disorder, borderline disorder, and schizophrenia. This has been Conscientiousness: How to Do More in Less Time by Unlocking the Power of the Mind. Written by Tyler Bourdan. Narrated by Thomas Cassidy. Copyright 2018 by Vincent Newt. Production copyright 2018 by Vincent Newt.